Hey folks, this is Rhykker, and as Not E3 continues over the weekend, we've got some other major announcements that have happened. So we got an update, addendum to our yesterday's news video that includes some big Diablo 4 news, as well as some news for some other properties. So in this video, we're going to start with the Diablo 4 news, then we're going to go over some Starfield news, plus highlights of what else has happened over the past couple of days at the various presentations, including the Xbox and Bethesda showcase, which just happened today. So first off, for Diablo 4, we got two massive things today. The first being the reveal of the 5th and final class, and the other being a release window. So, the 5th class is the Necromancer. And one thing that I found interesting was that they explicitly said in the reveal, Priests of Rathma. That's the actual names of the Necromancers. They don't call themselves that. Outsiders call them that. They are Priests of Rathma. It's a neat little lore thing that I thought was a little bit obscure to include in a big presentation, so I wonder if this is a suggestion that Rathma might actually play some form of role in the story of Diablo 4. There was all that speculation that Rathma was the Pale Man from the original Diablo 4 opening cinematic. There was the data mine within the video itself showing an editor note calling that guy Rathma. That has since been, well, right now, Blizzard officially calls this character Magnus. Some people still believe that it is Rathma in disguise. We'll have to find out. But whether that is or is not Rathma could still play a role in the story in some way. We also learned that the Necromancer is getting a special power called the Book of the Dead. I wonder if they're going to call it the Necronomicon. They call this an all-new ability for the class, allowing them to dominate the battlefield with deeper customization of their undead army than ever before. Fight with aggressive skeleton warriors, fast-attacking skirmishers, sword and board defenders, or scythe-wielding reapers. Unleash a litany of spells with skeleton mages, imbuing them with shadow, cold, and sacrificial magics. Deploy tanking bone golems, health-stealing blood golems, and charging iron golems. Or sacrifice them all to absorb their power. Now, we know that in Diablo 4, every class gets its own special, unique mechanic. It seems the Book of the Dead might be the Necromancers. That said, we are still getting a Diablo 4 quarterly update, which will launch tomorrow, so stay tuned for another full video dissecting and digesting and talking about that. Now, we also got confirmation that Diablo 4 is launching in 2023. Beyond that, however, at the very start of the Xbox and Bethesda showcase, they said, and this might be open for interpretation, but they said that the games that they are presenting today are all releasing within the next 12 months. Did they mean specifically their games that they're producing, or literally any game they're talking about in the presentation? I'm inclined to believe any game within the presentation, which gives us a basically first half of 2023 release for Diablo 4, which I believe is very reasonable. I believe that this lines up with all of our predictions we've been covering over the past few weeks, pointing towards a Q2 release for Diablo 4. All the signs have been there, be it the internal testing that's been happening, which will lead into a beta, which is likely to start, if I had to guess, around September. Again, going back to past patterns of Blizzard games. We got a relaunch of the Diablo 4 website that now has beta pre-registers, pre-signups there. You can all go there and do so if you want. That's your best chance at getting into the beta. We also got confirmation that Diablo 4 is launching on PS4, Xbox One, as well as PS5 and Xbox Series X and S. Also, there will be cross-play and cross-progression between console and PC. And the fact that they have this is also suggestive that we might also be able to have cross-play between server regions. Currently in Diablo 3, if you are playing on EU, you cannot bring your character over to America. However, if you can bring your character from PC to Xbox, I don't see why you could not also bring it from America to Europe. In the presentation, they continued to affirm that Lilith is the villain of Diablo 4. It sounds like she is trying to reclaim our world. They kept reinforcing that D4 is all about player choice, from physical customization, which again seems to be the deepest it's ever been in a Diablo game, as well as to gameplay customization, your ability to swap around your playstyle. We got a new look at the Paragon boards that look like they're actually implemented in a UI way that fits within the game. They said the game is open world, that there's no linear path you have to follow as you play through the game. There's almost 150 dungeons to find within this open world, and those dungeons will be randomized. The open world layout is not randomized, but the dungeons within are. Then as you're running through the world, you're going to run into local events. An event will pop up, a random quest, and you can choose to participate in it or not. And you can do this by yourself or in a party. And then additionally to that, there are world bosses. We got a glimpse at another world boss that looks really cool. This is when you're going to get more people in. I think we saw roughly a dozen or so people. Camera zooms out and it's this big boss that needs to be tackled with a whole group of people. We got a reiteration on the details of PvP. There are specific zones in the world that are flagged for PvP. You can flag yourself as PvP, opt into it. Once you enter that zone, then you can fight other players. And if you are doing really well, if you're killing a lot of people in PvP, then you will be marked to other players as some kind of champion, some kind of king of the hill, and you're going to become a loot piñata. Other players will want to hunt you down. They affirm that they're going to support Diablo 4 for years to come, that the endgame begins with the last story mission. It actually sets you up for the endgame. There'll be lots of things to do to make you more powerful. They even spoke about something called the Tree of Whispers that will let you unlock further world objectives and bounties and acquire legendary gear. That Tree of Whispers is some kind of endgame system. It's going to cycle through world objectives and bounties. It's going to reward experience, crafting materials, legendary gear, and more. This almost sounds like it might be some kind of a bounty board, but I look forward to seeing more details about this. We also learned about nightmare dungeons. Well, we learned very little, but that they exist. These are transformed dungeons that are teeming with enhanced demonic dangers and added difficulty in the form of new objectives and added afflictions to the dungeon. So this sounds like what's pretty common in ARPGs these days, the ability to basically add modifiers to a dungeon to make it more challenging with more reward, but I do wonder, what are these new objectives? That's something we don't typically see. We got a reiteration that strongholds are a major feature of the game. These are places within the world that have been claimed by evil and you can reclaim it. Clear out the stronghold and that will forever transform that area of the world for you. You'll get rewarded with loot, and additionally there might be something else that happens, like you might unlock a dungeon through doing that. And again, these dungeons, the layout is randomized within, but the overall dungeon itself is still going to be a specific dungeon. So you can still go in with a specific strategy knowing you're going to be fighting certain enemies, but the interior layout will differ. Then in an interview with GameSpot, we got even more details from Diablo 4 game director Joe Shelley and general manager of the Diablo franchise, Rod Ferguson. Shelley said, quote, "So when you go into a particular dungeon, you're going to see the tile set that's associated with the dungeon, that type of art. But when the dungeon rolls, it is randomly generated within those parameters. The monsters will be differently configured, you're going to see different champions, you're going to see different affixes, and you're going to see a different layout for that dungeon. On top of that, each dungeon has a dungeon objective, so when you go in, you might have an objective to slay a boss, but you might have an objective to track down 3 fallen idols and disable them. And so the completion objective for the dungeon is unique to each dungeon as well." Ferguson added, quote, "And one of the things I really like when we play is that you go in and you don't know the objective. There's not some magical person at the door telling you the reason. How you complete this is that you have to go in and discover the objective, which is really fun. And the dungeons actually play really well into our endgame. Not only do you have the dungeons that you're doing when you're playing through the campaign regularly for, say, new gear or a particular thing, but at the end, all of a sudden you have nightmare dungeons." Shelley said, quote, "So because the dungeons exist in the world, they're real places. You can upgrade the dungeons with these sigils to make them nightmare dungeons, and they become more dangerous. The additional affixes are applied to them that make the monsters more dangerous or can even give you advantages. So you'll get a wide variety of sigils with all kinds of different affixes on them. So there's once again player choice in which sigils you want to do. And if you get a sigil that is for a dungeon that you don't think is well suited to your class, you just skip that one, do a different one." Ferguson said, "Nightmare dungeons are our take on rifts. And so if you play Diablo 3, there would be a thing in town and you just go to it and it opens a portal and off you go and you're standing in town going to it over and over. And now we have these nightmare dungeons, which is like running a rift in a way, but it has a sense of place. And so Joe has sigils, I have sigils, and we're like, okay, where do you want to go? We have to go somewhere now. So let's mount up, get on our horses, and we're gonna ride west. And because that dungeon has a particular type of loot that we want to have, or a type of gear that we want to get. And I love that feeling of place and not just grabbing a portal in town every time. I'll reiterate that part there, that you're going to be picking what dungeon to go to partially based on what kind of reward you're seeking. Therefore, different dungeons will have either different loot tables or different kinds of rewards. Ferguson said, quote, D3, when it released 10 years ago, didn't have an endgame. When you finished the story, you were done there. There wasn't a reason to keep playing and get more powerful and go have new experiences. Where with D4, we've actually put a lot of effort into having an endgame at launch. Shelley said, we know it's fun to build your character and discover all these powerful builds. And we also think it's really important to have content to test yourself against. So we've really tried to expand the variety of activities. And as Rod said, in the game, when you finish the campaign, you might be level 45 or something. Your character level goes up to 100 through Paragon points. So I think the implication there is that your max level is going to be, let's say 50 or maybe 60, and then the other levels up to 100 are Paragon levels. Shelley goes on saying, and you get access to Whispers, you get access to Nightmare Dungeons and other endgame activities that we're still working on. We really wanted you to have a wide variety of things to do. And of course, you've got world tiers that are allowing you to step up the keep. Make sure that the difficulty of the world stays on pace with the power of your character level. And to unlock those, you actually need to prove to complete a dungeon to access that more difficult content. So it goes back to the idea of making a build, making it powerful, and then testing yourself against some challenge. So this is the first we've kind of really heard about the difficulty system now. Diablo 2 and 3, or 3 originally, had normal, nightmare, hell. D3 had inferno, difficulties. So it sounds like this is a way of having to unlock those additional difficulties by completing some challenge, some dungeon, some boss. Ferguson told us a bit more about the Necromancer and saying, quote, there's a category of blood magic, or there's a category of bone magic, or there's a category of shadow magic, and your summoner skills. And so you might go, oh, I'm gonna make a blood necro, or a bone necro, or a shadow necro, or a minionless necromancer, or a full minion version. Shadow magic is something new to Necro. Blood magic was introduced in Diablo 3. I mean, technically you had some little bit in Diablo 2, but it wasn't a big focus. I wonder if curses are going to fall under the category of shadow magic, or if it's just this entirely separate thing on its own. Shelley also said, quote, you're able to travel anywhere in the world, make decisions about what you want to do, whether you want to pursue the campaign, which is a 35-hour experience that is just brimming with story and characters that are really human, and you can really connect with on an emotional level. So that about covers the Diablo 4 news. Again, 2023 release, most likely within the next 12 months. Beta signups now, Necromancer. Tomorrow, quarterly update's gonna come out. Stay tuned for that video. Oh, and we actually also got this tweet from Pez Radar. Quote, D4 is coming out as a full-price game built strictly for PC and console audiences. The game is huge and there will be tons of content after launch for all players. Paid content is built around optional cosmetic items and eventually full expansions. We'll be sharing more info soon. This is the confirmation on what I was hoping for from my video yesterday. No pay to win in Diablo 4. Alright, we also got today an extended first look at gameplay for Starfield. And I gotta say, I wasn't super hyped about this game before. It was on my radar, I thought it was something of interest, but now seeing some actual gameplay and seeing all the customization, all the systems that they are showcasing here is getting me quite hyped for this title. The quality of the facial animations and the voice acting, so good. The world, or the universe rather, looks so rich. It doesn't look just like generic sci-fi, it looks so good. So interesting. Character creation is going to be more customizable than in any Bethesda game before. You can customize your walk style. The game's going to have a deep crafting system. You can build your own outposts. Then you can hire characters you meet to keep those outposts running. You can build your own spaceships. Choose your crew members for the spaceships. You can completely customize the look and the layout of your spaceship. There's going to be tons of different modules, ship manufacturers to choose from, and more. You then actually fly this spaceship. It's not just some cosmetic. You can pilot the ship itself, fire at enemy ships. This game is like 10 games in one game. There's running around and shooting in first person. There's flying a spaceship, like a whole flight sim system. This game is so big and with so much in it. There's going to be over 1,000 planets to visit in over 100 different star systems, and you can land on and explore every single planet. And of course, as we'd expect, there's a rich character creation system with regards to picking perks and getting your skills leveled up, all that. And again, this title is coming within the next 12 months. We also got a release date confirmation for Overwatch 2. That's going to be on October 4th. We got confirmation that the Junker Queen is coming to Overwatch 2. Reveal trailer coming for her. And going through some other rapid fire titles here. We're not going to cover every single title that's been spoken about over the past couple of days, but we got a first look at some gameplay for Redfall. Pretty cool looking game, vampire hunting in a stylized world. We got the reveal of a really bizarre game called High on Life that the creator of Rick and Morty is involved with. You use guns and other weapons that are basically aliens. They're constantly jabbering to you. It looks really weird, but it seems like it has fun gameplay. It releases in October of this year. We got some more footage for Plague Tale Requiem, which is coming out later this year. It continues to look really beautiful, and it's conceptually interesting gameplay. You gotta avoid rats, and the rats avoid fire, so you gotta spread fire to where you want to travel. But there's also combat in the game against NPCs, and there's this one clip where you actually see the player push an NPC into the rats. We got the unveiling of Ara History Untold, an upcoming turn-based 4X strategy game. I actually half expected it to be a new Civilizations game. This is being worked on by some Firaxis veterans, so this is definitely a title to keep an eye on if you like the genre. We got another look at a cinematic for Arc 2, the upcoming sci-fi dinosaur-riding Vin Diesel starring game coming in 2023. We got new gameplay and a release date of October 21st of this year for Scorn, which is looking grotesquely disturbing, incredibly unsettling, and I love it. It's super freaky, it's very alien, it's very H.R. Geiger. I feel like they've nailed that aesthetic 100%. We got new beta footage for a game called Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn. It's looking pretty good. This game's coming early 2023. It almost looks like a Dark Souls style game, but in the era of Flintlock pistols. Naraka Blade Point is coming June 23rd to console. It's gonna have a new campaign mode as well and crossplay. Obsidian Entertainment is putting out this interesting looking 2D medieval style game called Pentiment. That's coming November 2022. We're getting the full release for the game Grounded. That's coming September 2022. Finally launching out of early access. We saw some gameplay for Ereban Shadow Legacy coming 2023. It's a cel-shaded game with an assassin going up against robots using these Shadow no Jutsu powers. It looks like it's got some interesting mechanics. We got the world premiere of Wolong Fallen Dynasty coming 2023. Kojima then teased us without giving real details, saying they're working on a new game no one has ever experienced before, and that they'll bring more news in the future. So that about covers the Xbox Bethesda game show, but there was some stuff that happened Saturday and Friday as well that we'll briefly touch upon. During Netflix Geeked News, we got a first look at a new Castlevania anime series, Castlevania Nocturne. This one will take place long after the 4th season of Castlevania, during the French Revolution. A new Dragon Age animated series is coming in December, Dragon Age Absolution, a standalone show created in collaboration with BioWare, with new characters inspired by the lore of Dragon Age. Takes place in the Tevinter Imperium. Tekken Bloodline is getting a new anime coming out this year. That was teased back in March. It'll feature fan favorite character Jin Kazama. And Sonic fans, I know your hearts could only handle so much, but there's also a new Sonic series coming. Sonic Prime, that's coming later in 2022. Fingers crossed for this one. We also learned this week that God of War Ragnarok, despite rumors to the contrary, is releasing this year. We're going to get an actual release date soon, but it is not being delayed. It will be in November of this year. We also had today the 2-hour PC gaming show, so we're going to go over some highlights from there as well. Once again, not an exhaustive list, but things that we found particularly interesting. We got a gameplay trailer for Solstice, an action game similar to Devil May Cry that's releasing on September 20th. We got a gameplay showcase of The Invincible, a sci-fi thriller inspired by a novel with the same name. It's a retro-futurist game releasing in 2023. We got the release of Chivalry 2 on Steam with crossplay, and now horses can be used in combat. We got the announcement trailer of The Altars. This is from the creator of This War of Mine and Frostpunk. In this game, you're traveling with alternate versions of the same person, visiting distant planets. It's a survival story, and you need to create alters of yourself with different traits to help you out. It's a surreal psychological horror. Night Dive Studios revealed a brand new trailer for the upcoming remake of System Shock, and it's looking great. We got some alpha footage for Deliver Us Mars, releasing September 27th. This is the sequel to Deliver Us the Moon, an atmospheric sci-fi adventure. Frost Giant Studios spoke more about their upcoming RTS Stormgate. It'll revolve around an ongoing series of campaign missions, with new chapters coming out regularly, which again are playable single player or co-op. We got a release date trailer for Frozen Flame. It'll be coming fall 2022. Open world survival RPG / fantasy adventure game with co-op play, and early access is coming later this year. We also got a showcase of Half-Life Alyx Levitation, a mod that features an original 4 to 5 hour long campaign for Half-Life Alyx that'll be releasing in Q3 of this year. And that's gonna wrap up this video, folks. But do sound off in the comments with what are you most excited about of all the things that have been revealed and spoken about over the past few days. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch, Patreon, and YouTube supporters for making these videos possible. If you like what you see on this channel and want to support the creation of more content, you can consider pledging on YouTube or Patreon and unlocking behind-the-scenes content, monthly virtual hangouts, and more. If you enjoyed this video, please share it. Check out these other videos and subscribe to join Rhykker's Raiders for more gaming content.